Marco, this episode of the Training Pod is episode number 2. We're going to talk about behaviour management and why it's important. So, opening question, what's your views on behaviour management and why is it important when working with children?
Yeah, so I think for me, behavior management is essentially a way of disciplining the students to allow them to almost conform to what is expected of them. But I think the key word kind of within that sentence is the word disciplining, and not to kind of associate that with just the negative annotations around that. Um, for me, I think why it's important is probably because it's one of I think the biggest things that we in the job that we do where we're managing a group of children, it's essentially what we're measured on. I think it's one of the highest things of, like I said, what we are measured on. And I think that's why it's so important. And it is always something that school staff will always kind of seek to ensure that we can do, um, I suppose, before anything else, really.
Yeah, I think that you could have the best session plan in the world. You could have the best activity planned for a wraparound site. You could have the best activity planned for a camp, trying to deliver an outstanding session to children. But if you can't manage their behaviour, you know it's always going to go wrong. And I think you can tell in any session from the first 10 minutes whether it's going to be a good session or whether it's going to be a difficult one. And that's largely based down to the behaviour management. So what I thought we would do, we'd almost do a bit of a case study. So the case study is an employee of ours. It could be PE deliver, activity professional, could be play worker, could be someone working on camp, is going into their setting and they're going to be delivering a session and activity to the children. So we're going to do a bit of a case study of what they can do before they start, what they can do during the session, what they can do after the session, just to support with behaviour throughout. So I guess over to you then. Before you've even met the children or got into the session, what is there that we could be doing or employees could be doing to get off on the right foot in terms of behaviour management?
Yeah, well, I think obviously first and foremost, I don't want to kind of steer away and kind of venture into different aspects, but I think obviously we need to touch on the fact that the session itself needs to kind of be planned and prepared. In terms of kind of preparation before kind of going into the session, there's lots of things that the kind of staff can do. Like we said, kind of all centered around like the preparation before is kind of getting hold of like, the policies beforehand. They are something, if we look at it from kind of like a P delivery perspective, it's something that all schools have on their websites, the policies of what to kind of conform to. As soon as kind of you walk in, it's that first impression, it's just invaluable. And whether that's speaking to kind of whoever is in charge in terms of the class teacher, or if it's a wraparound manager or an office manager, whoever kind of that first face you see, there's lots of information that you can gauge kind of from them. So yeah, obviously knowing all of the information about the session itself in terms of what you'll be doing, it's then really kind of crucial to kind of find out as much information about it as possible.
Yeah, the preparation is key, isn't it? If you're not prepared for a session and you don't know what you're doing, trying to wing a session, no matter what product you're delivering, the chances are that the kids are going to cotton onto that, and
Yeah.
the hour or however long your session is going to be a long hour of just managing behaviour because you're unprepared. So definitely being prepared. It's the first step to keeping the children engaged. Second thing you highlighted there was behaviour policy. So I don't know about you, but when I was coaching, I used to go into a school and I knew that a school would be really impressed if I asked about the behaviour policy. Number one, customer service.
Yeah.
Number two, it helps. If you're going in as an outside provider, but you're using the school's policy, that's what the children are used to. They spend all day, Monday to Friday, in a classroom following this behaviour policy. So why, when you take the children, would you change that? You might as well keep it the same. Children see the consistency in that and probably actually treat you with a bit more respect, and see you as a teacher, rather than a coach, which we try and guide away from, don't we?
Yeah, and I think what's really kind of important to note there as well is that a lot of schools do things differently. And I would say I certainly learned that when I've kind of first started in this role, almost just kind of using what I did at kind of one school, or even using what I thought was correct, and ultimately actually being pulled up on it by the head teacher when like literally, kind of first few weeks kind of into the role. So yeah, that was a big learning curve for me. And again, it just showed that from then on, again, not trying to kind of deviate, but that customer service aspect is really important. But like you said, it's just finding out what the policies are. Again, it just makes your life easier. And I don't understand why anyone wouldn't want to know that information before going into that school setting.
Yeah. I think one thing we haven't highlighted here as well is speaking to the teacher about the children. So
Yeah,
if you haven't met these children before, speaking to their class teacher, or if you haven't met the children on a wraparound site before, speaking to the manager, finding out SEN, finding out any needs that the children might have within a physical lesson, or an activity is really key. So I think the three things which we highlighted there is preparation before you go in the front door of wherever you're going. Make sure you've got a good session plan. Asking for the policy and following it, and then asking for as much information around the children as possible. All these can be used on school provision, holiday camps, and wraparound. So I think they're
yeah.
the three standouts there.
Yeah, I would just say, just to add to that as well, even things like extracurricular, before school clubs, after school clubs, it's again all I always kind of say this, although yes, school has finished, that the same rules still apply, that the children will still need to follow the same kind of rules and expectations. So yeah, it works for extracurricular as well.
Yeah. So meeting the children would be next. So you've got all the information you need. Um, and now you're in the classroom or you're in the setting, and you've got to talk to the children. What would you do first time meeting children?
For me, confidence is a big thing. You've got to go in there and you've got to show that you're confident in front of a group of children, show obviously that you're keen, that you're enthusiastic, that you want to be there. Again, hopefully, kind of at this stage, you've liaised with members of the school. You might know a bit of information about certain children. Again, it's using that to your advantage. I've had it many times before where they say, oh, this child maybe in particular, he or she will fidget a lot, can't sit still. So right, straight away, have them as a helper. They can be the one to, whether it's, I don't know, collecting equipment, setting out equipment, or even just using them to try and get the other children, listening, or whatever that looks like. So yeah, that's one of the big things as well. I think the biggest thing would be, though, just to set those expectations beforehand. So when you've got that whole group of children, whether that's kind of in the classroom, in kind of like the hall, or as I said, whether that's kind of the in the setting of like a wraparound or an extracurricular club, again, it's kind of setting those expectations at first, making sure that the children are fully aware of what you want them to kind of be doing. And that should again just kind of set the tone for the lesson or the session that you're doing.
Yeah. Something I used to do, I used to get the children to tell me. So
Yeah, definitely.
if I went into a setting I'd never met these children, I would say to them, depending on the age, maybe not so much of key stage one, but they can give you a very basic understanding. I would say to them, right, if someone is going above and beyond expectation, or is behaving really well, or doing great listening, or is really trying the hardest, showing great sportsmanship, what could the reward be? And then the children have to put their hands up and they get a dojo point, they get a merit, they give a house point.
Yeah, yeah,
I go, right, yeah, that sounds great. So what about if someone makes a poor choice with their behavior? Then what would the consequence be? And they go, oh, we've got the warnings. All right, can you explain the warnings? Yep, we have red, amber, green, for example. You move your name down if this happens. And at the end, I would say, right, do we all agree then that I can use these within this lesson? And all the children go, yeah, definitely. Straight away, expectation is set. They've told me the expectation there. It's not me standing up front going, do this, don't do
yeah.
this, asking them to relay it back to you. also you've got them engaged straight away within a lesson rather than you standing up there for 5 minutes and the children just wanting to get outside and get the warm up going. So yeah, I'd certainly recommend that. I always did it. If I ever had a lesson where the children kind of fell off their behaviour a little bit in the expectations, maybe 3, 4 weeks down the line, I'll do it again. Just get them to kind of repeat exactly the same process and tell me again, and keep drumming it in until eventually you get to a point where you don't need doesn't need to be said anymore.
Yeah. Well, again, you're using that to your advantage. Like as I said, like you said before, the children, they're the ones who have set almost like their own expectations. They've clearly communicated what it is that they need to follow, what they need to do to get a reward, what potential consequences are if they're not following the instructions. So again, it's just reminding them constantly throughout the lesson. And I know obviously we've said before about trying to find out, these policies beforehand. Again, sometimes I do appreciate that it can be, difficult in terms of like timings, for example. You might we all know that things can happen as soon as kind of you walk into a school, whether that's the signing in process for you actually signing into the school takes a while. So that's why if you can't find out the information before the session starts, then when you've obviously got the children there, that is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So during the session next, then, um, we're in the school. We've set the expectations of the children. Session's underway. Um, what behaviour management, I guess, techniques, strategies? What would your tips be for during your session when it's just you and the kids?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different kind of strategies and techniques that you can use. Again, it's that I think communication is that key part. Whether you've kind of liaised with the school beforehand or students beforehand, they might have particular strategies that they might use with certain individuals or even the whole class, that goes throughout the school. So lots of different things include, things like, clapping a rhythm, children clap back. Obviously, the use of, I think, a whistle is really important. It's like a countdown, a hand in the air. But again, for me, it's just conforming to the behavior policy and the reward policy. Again, anything that you see a child do well, it's straight away highlighting it, rewarding them. Um, Again, not to kind of deviate, but the use of like a whiteboard to then display the reward system on there is yeah, there's lots of things that can be done. And again, just really kind of highlighting that positive reinforcement throughout is crucial.
Yeah, positive reinforcement is definitely the key. I'd probably say it's number one. When you've got the children, I in my journey, I used to go the other way. So I'd have 30 children sat down in front of me. Three would be spinning round, or talking. All my attention would focus on them. Stop doing this, stop doing that. That's a warning one. But you end up just stressing yourself out. And it's so hard to actually engage those three children. And also you're forgetting about the other 27 who are sat beautifully. So a head teacher actually told me this. I know we've had this conversation loads of times. She told me, right, go the other way around. So pick three children who are sat really nicely. Right, Marco, well done. You're sat beautifully. Good. Who else can show me that? First lesson I ever tried it, all 30 kids sat silently. I was like, oh my God, what have I been doing for 2 years
Yeah.
here? Um, being really positive, yeah. I like the whiteboard idea, getting children to write their own names on the whiteboard if they've got a dojo point or a merit or something like
Mm.
that. So it's tracked and it's consistent. But always, always, always positive before negative, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think
Can't
with
stress
that,
that
and
enough.
yeah, and again, it is just perfectly like normal, I think, that we all do notice the negative first. It's as I said, you're looking at kind of a group of 30 children. What always stands out is the ones who are talking, who are spinning around, doing this, doing that. But yeah, if you can kind of just get into that position of always highlighting the positive first, I mean, I would say this to everyone, it just transforms your teaching. I said, I mean, you mentioned there it kind of took you 2 years. It took me 1 year. So I spent my whole kind of first year, again, similar to you, just trying to make sure that all the children were doing what I wanted them to do. So really going hard on like the disciplining, but then yeah, kind of that year finished into September in the new academic year, and yeah, it just completely transformed my teaching to a whole new level.
Hmm. Anything else whilst you've got the kids, which is really important? Something which I thought of is being consistent with it. So you
Yeah,
can't be really positive for 1 week and give out dojo points, give out merits, use the warnings in week 1, but in week 2 you stop doing it, and in week 3 you try and pick it up, and week 4 you don't do it again. So I think consistency is really, really important. That way, over the period of time you're meeting these children, or you've got these children, it almost becomes unwritten rules that they know what they're doing, and they know how far the boundary is, and they know what the line is in the sand, which they can't cross.
yeah. I think for me, it's and I've spoken to a lot of kind of individuals about this, especially through like observations. It's we know that children, whether that's like I said, a PE lesson or after school and wrap around or a sports club, we have no idea what they're going through during like their day in their other lessons or at home. So the biggest thing for me is almost like picking your battles. And again, it just comes back to that clear communication with other staff. If you know that a child has maybe just had, I don't know, like a math lesson, for example, and then is coming into your P lesson and they've really struggled with it. They might even be bringing a few things from there into your lesson. It's just setting the expectations, but just trying to pick your battles. As I said before, I mean, I remember an individual who I used to teach, again, just would always kind of fidget when kind of sitting down when I was talking to the whole class. So if they were maybe, I don't know, just playing with a stone outside, but I knew that they were calm and they were being sensible and they weren't messing about, that's absolutely fine. So I think when I've kind of done a lot of these observations, I've said to members of the team, I understand that there might be certain things going on, but it's about what you're doing. As long as you can evidence and I can see that you're doing the right thing, you're trying to still follow the policies and the processes, set those high standards, address the low level behavior when you need to, then that's fine. If a child is still messing around, then that doesn't make you a weak coach. It doesn't mean that you're bad at your job. It could just be, one of those days that child is having, which we've all experienced.
Yeah. Okay, so after the session, taking them back, wherever you're going to take them back, is there anything where behaviour management could carry on here, and what could support you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think straight away, again, it's kind of that journey from wherever your lesson has taken place to wherever they're going to next. I mean, again, to kind of use myself as an example, when I one of the schools that I used to teach at, every time that I would walk the children from their classroom to outside where the lesson was, or obviously vice versa, it was walking past the head teacher's office. So straight away, every time I kind of got to where I was kind of in line with her office, I'd stop the class. I'd turn around, just
Classic.
make sure that they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
Again, just shouting out a well done here, a well done there, giving out a few of the reward points. And yeah, again, just goes to show that such a little thing would have such a big effect on, I suppose, my overall relationship within the school.
yeah,
So yeah, even that's really important. Just kind of, especially if you have like a long journey. I know some schools you might only have to walk a short distance, others could be quite a long distance. So yeah, every maybe, I don't know, 10-15 meters or so, just stop, let the children catch up. Obviously, you can monitor what they're doing, and then you can turn around and carry on.
yeah. I think also after a lesson, if you're dropping kids off to a teacher, or if you're taking kids back to the wraparound manager, for example, or even kids just being signed out from a holiday club or being signed out from a wraparound or an after school club, it's following that up with a bit of information to the teacher or the parents or the manager, whoever you're with, whatever setting you're on, celebrating their behavior. If a child's been really good throughout your lesson, celebrate with the teacher. Make sure the teacher knows they've been really good. Make sure they know that little Johnny's got 2 dojos for doing
Yeah,
outstanding listening. Make sure little Sarah is celebrated in front of the teacher or her parents because she really tried her best. It's only going to boost the child's confidence and gather more respect and make your life easier in the long run. I have seen it a lot of times, and sometimes we've all done it in the past, but you just drop the kids off and you go, right, that's me done for the day, see you later. But you're actually making your life a little bit harder for next time along the line. Spend 2 or 3 minutes having that conversation, really invest some time, and the children will reward you with that, I think.
Yeah, sort of, again, it's all about kind of building that rapport. And I think for me, one kind of method that I've always kind of used is that kind of feedback sandwich where you highlight something positive. You can then highlight in the middle maybe something that didn't quite go as planned, or felt maybe there's like an improvement, and then finish on a positive as well. Again, I think this is just where we need to be kind of clever in delivering this feedback. I
Maybe
mean,
need a
imagine
pod
like,
on customer service
yeah, I
in the
think
next episode.
if you kind of just go in there and you say, oh, they were terrible, they did this, they did that, or they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, you're saying it to their class teacher. You're basically saying that they can't do their job, because
Yeah.
that teacher spends maybe like 80 or 90% of the time with that class. So again, I'm sure we've probably all had it where maybe lessons haven't gone obviously as we wanted them to go, but still I'm sure there are kind of positives that you can kind of take from it, and just areas for development. But yeah, just the way that you're kind of communicating and passing on that feedback is important.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We'll finish off then. Marco's top 3 tips to summarize.
Okay, number 3, what I kind of just previously mentioned there would be the clear communication, being very, very clear with the instructions you're setting, and almost put in the expectations within your instruction. So like we said before, it's right, can you walk and come and sit down in front of me? And it's like you said, it's not just having children running in, accidents are happening, children are falling over, bumping into each other. So yeah, being very clear with every instruction that you give.
More so with Key Stage 1 as well, because they will do anything. Well, I mean, we've both got kids who are going to be going into foundation.
Hmm,
You can say something to them which you thought is very clear, and they're
yeah,
doing the opposite.
yeah, exactly. And again, it does just, I suppose, let's think about it. How much time do you think it would take if you just asked the children to stand on the line, and then you've actually got to keep mentioning it about, oh, make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing that, make sure you're facing this way, make sure you're lining up silently. Whereas if you actually said it before, it would probably take you maybe an extra, let's say, 3 seconds max to put
Yeah.
those instructions in, and it just makes your life easier. So yeah, that would be number 3. Number 2 is using the policies, the behavior policy, the reward policy. As we've kind of alluded to, every school kind of does it differently. So it's making sure you know in advance what those policies are. Like you said before, asking the children, getting them to tell you. And as I said, just using it consistently. And then yeah, number 1 for me, said it quite a few times, is that positive reinforcement. Every time you give an instruction, highlighting the first child who you see do it well, then the next child, then the next child, all of a sudden you've got this domino effect. You follow up with a reward, just makes the whole environment more positive. I think it makes you feel better in yourself about you're managing the children better. The children are happier, more motivated, more engaged, just creates a whole better environment.
Perfect. All right, Marco, thanks very much for your time. Good chatting with you, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.